They stole $85,000, every dollar I saved for the life I was building. You'll be fine, my mom said. My sister smirked, sure I'd stay quiet. I said nothing. But when I got home and checked my real account, I laughed. Because that wasn't even the real money. I never thought I'd be the kind of person who disappears without warning. But then again, I never thought my own family would be the ones to push me that far. It started on an ordinary Thursday in early spring. Atlanta was just waking up from winter, and the air had that soft promise of change in it. I had just wrapped up a long-term project in Miami, one that drained every ounce of energy I had but had also brought me closer to a dream I'd carried for years, opening my own architectural firm. I had worked hard, saved carefully. Every extra shift, every late night, every canceled plan, it was all for this. After the long drive, I finally pulled into the familiar driveway of my parents' house. The porch still creaked the same way when I stepped on it. Inside, everything looked as I remembered, comfortable, cluttered, lived in. My mom, Teresa, greeted me with her usual half-hug, the kind that made you feel like she was just checking off a box. My dad, Eduardo, nodded from his recliner, barely glancing up from the TV. And then came Lily, my baby sister. All smiles and big, excited energy. 22, in college, always wearing something new. She ran to me, arms open. Carmen, you're finally back. I wanted to believe it was a warm welcome. I really did. But something felt off. Still, I brushed it off. I was tired. I wanted to rest, enjoy a weekend with family, maybe even tell them about my plans, how I was ready to take the leap, open my firm, and finally start building something that was mine. The next morning, while they were still asleep, I opened my laptop in the guest room and decided to transfer money from my savings to a business account I had just set up. I logged into my banking app and froze. The screen showed a balance of $135.47. That couldn't be right. I blinked hard, refreshed the page. Again. And again. But the number didn't change. Less than 48 hours ago, I had over $85,000 in that account. I felt cold all over. My fingers shook as I pulled up the transaction history. Dozens of withdrawals, transfers I didn't recognize, rent payments, tuition deposits, even a payment labeled car down payment. I couldn't breathe. I called the bank immediately. The representative asked a few security questions and then calmly said, all of the transactions came from a known device, previously used under your login, located at the same IP address as your personal computer. The same IP address as this house. I didn't even change out of my pajamas. I stormed down the stairs, heart racing, vision blurry with shock and disbelief. Lily was already in the kitchen, sipping coffee, scrolling on her phone. I need to ask something, I said, my voice tighter than I expected. She looked up, blinking slowly.
Sure.
What's wrong? My savings account. It's gone. All of it. Over 85 grand. And it was transferred from a device here. She didn't even flinch. Oh, she said, like I had asked if we were out of milk.
Yeah.
I used it. I just stared at her. What do you mean you used it? She shrugged, stood up, and poured more coffee. I needed help. Tuition's been crazy. And rent. And, I'm trying to start that boutique business. Mom and Dad said it was okay. I turned slowly to where my mom stood in the hallway, arms crossed, watching. You knew? I asked, barely able to form the words. She sighed, like I was making a big deal, out of nothing. Carmen, you don't have kids. You don't have loans. You've got a great job and no one to take care of.
You're fine.
Lily needed it more. Needed it. My voice broke. It was everything I had. Everything I worked for. Dad walked in, sipping his coffee like it was just another day. We figured you'd understand, he mumbled. Family helps each other out. But I didn't offer. You didn't ask. You weren't using it, Lily said, smiling like she was explaining something obvious. You always talk about giving back. I mean, I'm your sister. There it was. That word.
Sister.
Like it was supposed to excuse theft. I sat down slowly on the couch, feeling like the air had been knocked out of me. They all stood around me, so calm, so matter-of-fact, while I crumbled inside. I remembered every late night in college when I worked double shifts at the diner just to make rent. Every weekend I stayed in while my friends traveled. Every time I said no to little pleasures just to build something bigger for later. I had done everything right. Everything. And it had all been erased with a few clicks by the people I loved the most. No apology. No remorse. Just quiet justification wrapped in the word family. In that moment, something inside me went silent. Not broken. Not destroyed. Just quiet, like a door slowly closing. I stood up, brushed the wrinkles from my jeans, and smiled. "It's okay," I said, even though nothing was okay. Lily beamed.
See?
"I knew you'd understand." Mom gave me a nod. "That's why we trust you, Carmen. You've always been the strong one." And just like that, they moved on, chatting about dinner plans, a new movie coming out, things they needed from the store. As if they hadn't just stolen my future. I excused myself, went upstairs, and locked the door behind me. I stared at the ceiling for hours that night, listening to them laugh downstairs, telling myself over and over, "Don't cry. Don't scream. Don't let them know they got to you." And I didn't. But that night, a quiet plan began to form. If they could take everything I built like it meant nothing, then maybe it was time I showed them exactly who they underestimated. I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't beg. I would remember. And I would return, but not in the way they expected. Not as the daughter who keeps giving. Not as the sister who forgives everything. Next time, I'd come back as someone else. The woman they taught me to become. I didn't leave the next day. That would have been too obvious. I stayed the whole weekend, smiling, helping with dishes, even laughing at Lily's dumb stories about her business ideas and drama with her friends. I played the part so well, I almost fooled myself. But inside, I was unraveling. Every word they spoke, every casual assumption that I'd be okay, just fed the quiet storm inside me. They acted like I was a backup plan, like my hard work wasn't mine, but some kind of shared resource they were entitled to. I started replaying years in my head, moments I'd brushed off before, but now saw differently. All the small favors, the guilt trips, the way my mom used to sigh when I didn't come home for holidays, as if I was abandoning them, not just trying to rest from the 60-hour weeks I worked. When I moved out at 24, I never once asked for help. I paid off my student loans alone. I cooked in bulk to survive on a tight budget. I skipped happy hours, trips, new clothes, all to save. And every time Lily had a crisis, every time Mom said, "She's still figuring things out," I gave in. Because I loved them. Because I thought that's what good family does. But they never once asked, "Are you okay, Carmen?" Not once. That weekend, I didn't sleep much. I started keeping notes on my phone in a hidden notebook. I remembered everything. The money I gave, the things I sacrificed. I listed every transaction from my account. I took photos of documents lying around, Dad's paperwork on the desk, Mom's overdue bill notices half buried in drawers. I wasn't even sure why at first. Maybe I just needed to know I wasn't imagining it. That the betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was factual, trackable, real. When I left Sunday evening, my mom kissed my cheek and said, "Don't forget about Sunday dinner next week."
Just like that.
Like nothing happened. I nodded, smiled, and drove away. But I didn't go home. I parked by the lake near my apartment. It was quiet, gray skies above, the water still. I sat there for hours, staring at the ripples, trying to decide who I was going to be now. Because the woman I'd been, trusting, patient, forgiving, she wasn't going to survive this. I moved through the next few weeks like a ghost. I kept working, nodding at meetings, smiling at coworkers. But every free moment, I was gathering.
Quietly. Carefully.
I contacted the bank. I asked for a full transaction history from the past 60 days. I flagged every unauthorized transfer. I made copies of statements. I printed screenshots of texts from Lily asking for help over the years, and emails where Mom implied I should do the right thing for family. I organized everything in folders, digital and physical, One night, I stared at a payment for $2,400 made to a college account under Lily's name. The timestamp showed it was processed at 1:12 a.m. from my mom's house. That same night, I had been asleep upstairs. I remembered checking my email before bed, nothing else. But I must have left the browser open. That's how they did it. They didn't even ask. I started visiting their house again. Not because I missed them, but because I needed more. I needed to see just how deep this went. I'd smile, bring wine, make dinner. Mom said she was happy to see me letting go of stress. Lily called me the cool sister again. Dad even asked if I could help him sort through some old receipts for tax season. I said yes, of course. And while he watched the game, I scanned every file into a hidden flash drive. I found things. Bad things. Tax records that didn't match income. Falsified expense reports. Checks made out to people who didn't exist. My dad had been hiding shady money for years, and now that they were tight on cash again after draining me, they were slipping. One night, while I was in Lily's room borrowing a charger, I noticed her college laptop was unlocked. She was in the shower. My heart pounded. I knew it was wrong, but I clicked anyway. Emails to her advisor, forged documents, fake recommendations. Even messages between her and a guy who helped her fake receipts for scholarship renewal. Everything was there. I sent copies to myself. Every single one. At home, I stayed up until 3 a.m., putting it all together. I made a spreadsheet. Columns for each family member, dates, amounts, what the money was for, what lie they told. I color-coded them. Green for times I offered help, red for times they took without asking. The red bled across the page. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just numb. I think I stopped being their daughter somewhere in those rows. Mom called a few days later asking if I could cover the next utility bill, said she was a little behind. I didn't answer. I just removed my name from the shared account. Quietly. No warning. 2 weeks after that, she got an eviction notice taped to the front door. I didn't say a word. Dad's office got audited a month later. An anonymous tip about tax discrepancies. He thought it was one of his employees. He even ranted about it at dinner, red-faced and furious. I just stirred my soup, nodding like I cared. And Lily? Her scholarship was pulled. Some inconsistencies in her application, they said. She called me sobbing, asking what to do. I told her I believed in her, that she'd figure it out. I hung up and cried for a full hour after that. Not because I regretted it, but because I had to become this person. Because they turned me into her. The night I left the house for the last time, I placed a single envelope on the kitchen table. No return address. Just my name. Inside was a letter, handwritten. You made me disposable. Now I've returned the favor. I closed the door behind me without looking back. I knew they'd find it in the morning. I moved out of my apartment. Got a new number. Changed my email. Left no forwarding address. The only thing I took with me was a small folder of documents and a heavy, aching silence that filled the car as I drove. It wasn't revenge for revenge's sake. I didn't want to ruin them. I just wanted to be seen. I wanted them to feel, for even a moment, what it was like to be taken for granted. To be used, then discarded. To be forgotten. They made me the strong one. They forgot that even strong things can break. And when they do, the pieces don't just lie quietly. They cut. I didn't know what healing was supposed to feel like. At first, I thought it would be relief, freedom, maybe. But the truth was, even after I walked away, I didn't feel lighter. I felt empty. In the mornings, I sat at my small kitchen table in silence, stirring cold coffee and staring at nothing. I thought about calling someone, an old friend, a coworker, but what would I say? That I'd finally stood up to my family, and now I didn't know who I was without their demands? That I didn't miss them, but I missed being needed? Still, I kept going. I went to work. I showed up. I delivered. And every night I came home and added something new to the folder, a screenshot, a receipt, another note for the record I was building. I didn't know what the final plan was, not yet. But I wasn't done. Then one day, I was in a Zoom meeting when I got a call from an unfamiliar number. I let it go to voicemail, but something tugged at me. During lunch, I stepped outside, pressed play, and listened. This is Officer Harper from the Financial Crimes Division. Ms. Rivera, we've reviewed your submitted documents. Based on the preliminary investigation, we believe there is sufficient cause to move forward. We'll be contacting the individuals involved. I froze right there on the steps outside my office. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt a strange wave of sadness. This wasn't just about numbers anymore. It was about people, my blood. That night, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Missed calls from my mom, texts from Lily, even a message from Dad, his first in months. What are you doing, Carmen? You called the police? Are you insane? Call me. We can fix this. But they didn't say they were sorry. They didn't say I was right. All they cared about was damage control. Later that night, I got a message from a neighbor. There's a white van with Financial Crimes Unit on the side parked outside your parent house. They're asking questions. I didn't reply. I just sat in the dark, holding my phone, listening to the quiet hum of my fridge, trying not to cry. The next day at work, my manager pulled me aside. A local reporter called, asking about an investigation connected to your name. We didn't confirm anything. But Carmen, if you need time off. I nodded slowly. Thank you. I might. As I walked out of his office, I realized something. They could finally see it too, the weight I'd been carrying. The silence I'd been drowning in for years. When I got home that night, my inbox was full. More missed calls. More panic. One email stood out. It wasn't from my family. It was from a name I barely remembered. Melanie Carter. Amanda's cousin-in-law. I'd seen her maybe twice at family gatherings. Quiet, polite, forgettable. The subject line read, "Thank you, Carmen." I clicked, expecting confusion. Instead, it nearly knocked the air out of me. She wrote, "You probably don't remember me, but I remember you. I saw what you did, and I just want to say thank you for standing up,
For drawing the line.
I've been stuck in the same kind of cycle. My mom says I owe my brother everything because he's not as lucky. I work 3 jobs. I send money home, and no one ever asks if I'm okay. But when I heard what you did, it lit a path I didn't know existed." She ended with a single line. "You gave me permission to say no." I sat there in my dark apartment, hand covering my mouth, trying not to sob. It was the first time I felt seen, not as a wallet, not as a lifeline, but as a woman who had been trying to hold herself together in silence for years. The calls from my family got worse. Mom left a voicemail sobbing, saying they might lose the house. That Lily's tuition was frozen. That Dad's accounts were flagged. But not once did she ask, "Are you okay?" I didn't answer. I made tea, wrapped myself in a blanket, and opened my journal. I wrote down a single sentence. I am not the family bank. I am Carmen. That weekend, I packed my things. Not just clothes, but my memories, my plans, the version of myself I had been building quietly in the shadows. I canceled my lease, put in for remote work, and drove east, towards somewhere quiet, somewhere new. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I didn't feel guilty. I felt free. I ended up in Asheville, North Carolina, a little mountain town with soft hills, slow mornings, and no one who knew my name. I rented a small cottage with white walls and wide windows. For the first time in my life, I decorated it exactly how I wanted. Not functional,
Not plain.
beautiful, full of light. And when I sat at my new desk, I didn't feel used. I felt like someone who had finally come home. That's when I realized revenge wasn't just about what I took back. It was about what I rebuilt. In Asheville, I stopped checking my phone so often. I changed my number, deleted the group chats, and blocked every account that tried to guilt me into coming back. The silence was jarring at first. I'd been so used to the constant ping of responsibility. Another request, another, "Can you help just one more time?" But once the noise faded, something unexpected replaced it. Peace. I woke up to quiet mornings and made breakfast without rushing. I lit candles in the evenings. I took walks just because I could. I was finally living without waiting for the next demand. I didn't owe anyone anything anymore. But they didn't stop. One morning, I got an email from Lily, sent through a backup account since I had blocked her everywhere else. She wrote, "You win. My tuition's gone. My future is ruined. I hope you're happy." That line stung, not because she blamed me, but because even now, she didn't understand. It wasn't about winning. It was about finally refusing to lose myself. Later that week, Officer Harper called again. She told me the investigation was wrapping up. Eduardo was facing serious penalties for tax fraud. Teresa was being questioned over mortgage irregularities tied to funds taken from my account. Lily's college had launched its own inquiry. There would likely be lasting consequences for all of them. I said thank you and hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't celebrate. I just sat by my window with a cup of tea and breathed. For the first time in years, my chest didn't feel tight. I didn't feel like I had to justify my existence by how much I could give. It wasn't over, not really. They were still trying to reach me. My mother sent a handwritten letter through an old friend. It said, "Please don't abandon me. I know I made mistakes, but if we lose the house, I don't know how I'll survive." Not once did she ask how I was. Not once did she say she was sorry. She still saw me as a solution, not a person. And maybe that's what hurt the most, not the theft, not the betrayal, but the way they could never separate my love from what I could provide. I didn't respond. Instead, I went back to the little coffee shop in town, the one with the soft jazz and warm light, the one I'd visited years ago when I was still dreaming about freedom. I sat at the same corner table, watching strangers pass by outside, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was carrying anyone else's weight. The owner recognized me. "You've been here before, haven't you?" he said.
A while back.
"I think you asked about the music that day." I smiled.
Yeah.
That was me. He looked at me for a moment, then nodded. "Glad to see you again. This place heals people." I believed him. That night, I wrote in my journal. I didn't lose my family. I just stopped letting them lose me. I never imagined I'd inspire anyone, but the emails kept coming. Quiet thank yous from women I barely knew. One said she finally told her parents she wasn't going to pay their bills anymore. Another said she moved out and started over just like I did. And then there was Melanie's message, still saved in my inbox, reminding me that courage spreads, even when we don't know we're being watched.
I didn't respond to my family again.
Maybe one day they'll understand. Maybe not. Either way, I've let go of the need for their approval. I spend my weekends learning pottery now. I planted a garden outside the cottage. I read before bed instead of lying awake with anxiety. I even started cooking again, my own recipes for no one but me. Sometimes I think about the girl I used to be, the one who said yes to everything, who smiled through tears, who thought love meant sacrifice without end. And I feel for her. She tried so hard to keep everyone warm, even if it meant setting herself on fire. But now I know better. Now I know that boundaries aren't walls. They're doors we lock when we realize not everyone deserves access to our peace. I may not have the family I thought I'd always have, but I have something more valuable. Myself. Whole, awake, and finally free. And that is enough.